Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Urbane Legends, the smash hit internet podcast about urban legends and other similar topics. It's good, isn't it? I've got that down now. I used to say and urban legends
that
and other
retching noise
things.
you used to make. You've got
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got confused. So I'm Chris Flynn, the confused, and with me as always is Mr. Neil Herbert.
Equally confused, yeah.
Sorry, and I introduced you there as well.
Yeah, you used my name, which is,
I'll be honest now.
That's different.
Hey, it's
Bit
hot,
of fun
isn't it?
for long-time listeners. It's extremely hot. And it's
Hottest days of the year.
If you think we're rambling and incoherent normally, then good luck. Watch out.
Yeah. I've got that kind of like sticky sort of sheen over my body.
Well, it's like 6:30. I looked up. I think it's 72% humidity at the moment, according to my little electronic device.
That might as well just be in the bath. I just had a bath, by the way. A nice bath. It was good.
I had a shower before the pod.
Nice. I don't like showers. I think showers are Tory.
No, all right. It's the fucking class warrior about.
They're all business, aren't they? They're not about the enjoyment. They're all time is money.
Well, I didn't have time because we were kicking off at 6ish. So
I'm not saying you this time, Neil.
I'm cold shower. Just
keep an eye on that moving forward.
Moving forward.
Neil, do you think so? I feel like in the heat, my hair is my facial and head hair is growing quicker. Is that something that happens in the heat, or is it that my face is shrinking?
Yeah, the rest of your body is just shrinking.
Oh, right, it's dehydration.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, you're sweating out all of your life essence.
Okay, good.
It's like how corpses appear to grow their nails and hair.
Oh, yeah, lovely. That's why you get all the nails for the nail parlours and stuff, isn't it? They call them the wink acrylics. They keep them behind the counter.
You don't ask, we don't tell.
So yeah, how have you been getting on with the heat, Neil? Got any coping mechanisms?
No, we were saying you shouldn't. I mean, I crack open a window and try and get a breeze going on. There's not much of a breeze at the moment, but I kind of I opened the back door and sort of closed the curtains. So
just to clarify to everyone, this incredible heat that we're feeling is about 28, 29 degrees Celsius.
So let's just address this because everyone sort of takes the piss. And there was a thing on social media with somebody
last week, I think.
I'll do that.
Week before, last series maybe.
I'll mention it again anyway because
good.
There you go. Because everyone's always going on about how so much hotter everywhere else, blah blah. It's because of the high humidity where it becomes quite hard. Firstly, because we're quite Northern European, you get very short nights, so it never really cools down even at night. And then secondly, with the high humidity, if you sweat, it doesn't evaporate, so it doesn't, you're not cooling down, so it becomes harder to bear. Even people who come from very hot climates like from Texas and stuff.
Yeah, but they got that dry
heat, yeah, which you can cool down in. People are sensible in other countries and they sort of don't go out in the midday.
Well, they've got air conditioning and stuff, which we don't.
Aircon as well.
I mean, it's what you're saying. What I'm hearing is essentially Britain in the summer is the equivalent of being in the tropics, being in the equator between.
I suppose it's been quite a while since I've been around that corner of the universe. But
is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I suppose, I think I went to Singapore when I was much younger. That was quite. Yeah. I mean, I quite enjoyed it at the time, but I enjoyed it a lot. Actually, lovely country, but a bit of Malaysia, and I think that's got quite humid. So yeah.
So there you go, listeners. That's why we complain about it.
Possibly quite a lot hotter, but there you go.
So what I like to do to cool down, Neil, is I like to come up with winning ideas for potentially new sitcoms.
Okay, so if you come up with a red hot idea, then that will cool you down.
Yeah, so like drinking
transference.
My Irish granddad used to always drink a really hot cup of tea when it was cold, when it was hot, to cool himself down.
Yeah, makes total sense.
So I've been listening to a book called Sapiens, which is about humans. But I mean, in the early days, obviously there wasn't just sapiens. The Homo genus has lots of different animals and
habilis and Homo erectus and God knows what else. Yeah.
So I was thinking, what if a couple of our contemporary humanoids
Yeah.
had survived all the way through to now.
Oh, I mean, why not with like Neanderthals?
Neanderthals. I was thinking Neanderthals and Denovians, right?
Yeah.
And so the sitcom is that they had survived alongside sapiens, and and there's one of each, and they work together in a kebab shop. What do you reckon? Good premise?
If it's the 80s, this is gold dust. I'm not sure how well it'll play. I'm not sure how well it'll play in modern day, but yeah, why not?
But I mean, you could use it to kind of like discuss things that are taboo, couldn't you? Like race relations.
I reckon this is a BBC Three pilot. You know,
BBC
try it out. BBC Three.
Are you commissioning me for that?
Yeah, if you like.
Nice one. All right, I'll start putting a work order together.
Get half an hour in, and then we'll see how it lands.
So that'd be good, wouldn't it? Like the Neanderthal
treatment on my desk by Monday.
Be a bit stronger, wouldn't they?
Larger brains as well, I seem to recall.
They did have larger
brains. Or did they have larger brain cavity? I don't know. Yeah.
They had larger brains and were potentially like a bit more dexterous and stuff, but they didn't have the leap into. Because if you think about it, because like basically language and storytelling, but because if you think about kind of how human society works, we kind of pull together sort of behind stories. Like a lot of the stuff that we even talk about, that we kind of think like government or whatever, right? It doesn't, like, it's a concept. It doesn't exist.
Construct, yeah.
We live in a world, we humans are very good at making constructs, which other apes weren't particularly, as far as we know, as far as we can see. And that gave us an advantage because you can organize a larger group together if you can, if you can get them all believing in a construct, essentially, be that religion, be that government, whatever, any of it. Like even company, Sony, if you sold all the Sony factories and everything, the company would still exist, right? But it's nothing. It's just something on paper. So they reckon that's why humans basically because we just talk bollocks is why.
That sounds about right.
Believe anything. We're in our vests. We're doing our quests. Is that anything, Neil?
We're in our vests. We're doing our quests.
Yeah.
So this sounds like it could be some kind of like great. Is it Great Escape? What's that one where I've not really seen it that much. The race around the world. Bit in a vest.
Never seen it.
I don't know. Well, I've not seen that one, but it was a thing they had on Channel 4 in the 90s where they dumped you into some random location and you had to find your way back to London.
Oh, okay.
So you didn't know any of the language or any of the rest of it. So you had like a camera crew and I don't know, like a certain amount of local. Yeah. I don't know how they did for money and stuff, but
you just nick it.
Yeah.
It was Channel 4 in the 80s, edgy.
It was, yeah, the mid-90s.
They had to stop it when that
bloke
killed a taxi driver, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, Leslie Grantham. Yeah, no, that's... they got in trouble. Oh, blimey. Yeah, there you
go. So who do you think will have a moustache the longest, Eddie Murphy or Bob Carolgees from 80s television, who's still alive?
I was going to say the first question I've got is Bob Carolgees still alive?
He owns, because I've been watching. So there's on Twitch there's a comedian who was a big comedian, did stuff on BBC and everything, called Limmy, Scottish guy, very very funny, and he basically was just like, I can't be arsed writing books and doing TV shows and stuff. It stresses me out, right? It's not worth it. I'm just going to do Twitch because I like playing computer games and I can talk nonsense. And so he does that. Yeah. So I watch his VODs sometimes. And he's going through an 80s TV show called Surprise, Surprise by Cilla Black, who we actually mentioned being potentially a CIA. You're
having a bit of a Cilla Black kind of renaissance here, aren't you? I don't know.
We are,
You're back to low-key trying to bring her back in.
No, but do you know what? Like, he started doing that after you and I had talked about it. So it's like a weird...
We're influencers.
Well, I think it's like a cosmic thing.
Or is it just like a Zen thing? Yeah. Because the universe is trending Cilla.
Also Cilla, right?
Terrible. Scouts again?
Terrible person. She was properly, like, would go up and do the intro speeches for Thatcher.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all the way until Thatcher stepped down. She was like proper hardcore Tory, which is really unusual for someone from Liverpool.
Well, self-made Scouser, yeah, entitled
But
to vote for who she wants.
She were probably living in Cheshire by then.
Well, by that point, yeah.
So, Eddie Murphy, Carol G's, I've had a look, they've always had the tash.
I was going to say, yeah, because I mean, Eddie Murphy going back to the 70s and Carol G's is presumably the same. So, unbelievably, they probably had a similar length. Well, I'll say similar length career. I don't think Bob Carol G's is getting a lot of work these days.
So again, I looked this up because I went into a wormhole.
I was going to say, is he doing has he got a cameo thing?
In Cheshire, he has a family-run business called Carol G's Candles. He owns
he's a Chandler now.
Yeah, he's a Chandler. Yeah. So Bob Carol G's, for people who don't know, right, in the terrible, terrible years of 1970s and 80s British entertainment, I mean, there was good stuff, but like the sort of light end to the sort of like mainstream.
Well, you'd have a period of basically after dinner and then before the news and stuff. You might have a film on ITV or something like that at 10 o'clock. But yeah, there'd be like the light entertainment, which would be especially on Saturdays and stuff like that, or during the daytime. But sort of Saturday night, it was kind of like family hour.
So he was
had to have sort of family friendly entertainment. So yeah.
So he was kind of known.
The grandma had to appreciate it as well
for having for being a. We wouldn't call it a puppeteer, would you? A ventriloquist, sort of. But he had a cheeky dog.
He had like a puppet
that spat at
everyone.
Yeah, that spat at everyone. Yeah.
I mean, I think they'd all come through and done stuff like Redcoats or something. But so basically, it's that kind of thing where a lot of it derives from musical.
Working man's club.
Yeah, you'd go and do an act, and then you'd learn. But and then you had it family friendly. Then you might get on TV, and then probably good paycheck. To be fair,
but he was a mustachioed man.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to tell you is he is 10 years older than Eddie Murphy, Bob Carol G's.
Only 10 years.
So who of them? So that's I think basically who of them will shave it or die youngest?
Well, firstly, they're both going to the grave with a tash now.
Right. Okay.
I feel like if you're going in that long and that hard, because I mean Eddie Murphy, he started in Saturday Night Live. I mean, wasn't he like a teenager or something, or very early 20s?
Yeah.
Like he came out very young, didn't he? So
as soon as he could grow that moustache, it's not left his face.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I've no idea what Bob Carol G's facial hair is right these days, but fair enough.
He's still got
he had a beard as well, didn't he?
No, just a tash.
Just a tash. Yeah. I don't think either. They're both getting buried with those tashes, I think. So it's a question of who lives longer. I mean, you'd have to say Eddie Murphy, surely. Although I imagine in the 80s he's quite... Well, I don't know. Is Carol G's healthy? I just feel like because Carol G's going to be older, but then I suspect...
But he's moved into Chandlery, so
that's true. It's probably a more calming, relaxing lifestyle. I think Eddie Murphy's probably under more pressure and probably had more of a party lifestyle. I think it's going to depend. I think genes-wise, Eddie Murphy would each out, but I think, because he's had a bit of a hard living times and probably under more pressure. Yeah, if he has a heart attack or something, then I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna mildly go with Carol G's.
How much money are you putting on that?
Absolutely not. 1 penny.
More.
Okay, well,
more. Come on.
I'll have a. So we're doing a really shitty version of Death Pool. I'll have a quid on.
I'm not betting in it.
Who am I betting against then?
The listeners. Okay. You've got to cover all their bets.
God. I know you've only got 10 of them, but nonetheless. I'll have a quid against whatever listener wants to. If you can remember, you can tell us when whichever one passes away first, sadly.
Well, no, because Bob Carol G's could pass away first, but he's got 10 years grace because he's 10 years older. Do you see what I mean?
Oh, okay. So it's still 11 times. Okay, yeah. Well, if Eddie passes, then clearly, or if he passes first, then clearly Carol G's wins. If this is the rules of the game. If not, then you can get in contact when Carol G's does. Or maybe we'll announce when Carol G's does pass, and then there's.
And then the clock's ticking.
Basically, get in touch. You've got to stump up. You put a quid on Eddie Murphy against me. There you go.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what. I'll give you 2-1 odds.
What, Eddie Murphy won't have? Carol G's will have the longest living moustache.
Yeah, I'll put a quid up. I'll give you 2 quid if.
Nice. So all right. Well, I'll have that. I'll have that action then.
No, you don't get to. No, you don't get to.
Too late.
Be one of the listeners.
Already in the book.
Nope.
Too late.
Exclusive offer for the listeners.
When I do a really terrible edit of this, then it's going to sound like you just said yes.
Just ever so slightly trying to encourage anyone to. I mean, we get the odd random email, but
So Neil, moving on. You've been following Taylor Swift around her UK on this leg of her Eras tour, correct?
yeah, I definitely know where all of those are.
Not because you know her music, and not because you're a fan or even because you're attracted to her, but to try and serve her court documents as you think she's stolen your look. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay, have you got, how close have you got to being able to serve your documents?
I took a beating from what I assume was one of her security guards.
Okay.
It may have just been an enraged Swiftie.
And where was this?
It was outside the Royal Albert Hall, Wembley Stadium. I imagine it's probably more likely, but
right, okay.
They go outside Wembley Stadium.
Have you thought about posting? Like, you can't. You have to actually hand it in.
No, you've got to physically serve.
Physically serve. It's a difficult woman to get to serve papers. I imagine.
Well, this is why crime.
She gets away with stealing your look.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you're listening, Taylor, which I'm sure you are,
undoubtedly, I've got nothing better to do.
Why not contact us and we'll see if we can deal with this amicably.
I want to resolve this amicably. But
you're a reasonable guy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I've only had to invoke court justice because I've been forced my hand.
Well, Neil, I mean, do you know what? I wouldn't mind, but it's not like she looks anywhere near as good as you in a catsuit, is it? Come on.
That's for everyone to decide for themselves. But
she's embarrassing herself. Why put yourself up against the king? Side by side. Who wore it best, Neil? So just before we started, I noticed there's a new feature on my Spotify, which is an AI DJ.
And does that decide like which tracks you want to listen to?
Yeah, and I think,
or does it make up new music like like Orwell's?
Music. It's dreadful.
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense. It can't even do scales. No, it basically looks at
probably wouldn't sound any different from the last 5 years of popular music. Oh, there's an opinion.
There he is. Oh, watch out, Taylor. Oh, the cat's got his claws out. No, like it basically goes, "Hi, I'm the AI" or whatever, and it's got like quite an LA.
You just
voice.
listened to so and so. Would you like to listen to it again?
No, I actually start sexually harassing you like British DJs in the 70s. Yeah.
Would you like to come backstage?
Yeah,
get some tickets.
No, it starts talking. Is going, all right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play some of the stuff you like that you've had on recently.
Yeah,
but also I'm going to play some other stuff. So
this is the sort of thing anyone should be able to do quite well.
Yeah, you think, and also like drop in some other songs that maybe you've not heard, and you go, "Oh, that's
no, exactly." Similar. And there's been things like Pandora was one that did it a while back, and there was a music DNA project. They tried to figure out like the essential elements, like DNA of a piece of music,
God,
like
that's tiresome.
The rhythm. But the idea is it could spot someone's go, "Oh, well, you like this, and you might like this." They were trying to break it down.
Actually, I think you'll find that particular A blues scale came from the blues. Delta
and the
blues,
idea was less about exposing you to that, but just to sort of like get some characteristics. So you go, well, actually,
it wasn't boring muso stuff then.
Oh, I'm sure some people got far too into the nuts and bolts of it, but no, the idea was that you never got exposed to that. It just went, actually, because you like this, try this completely unrelated thing, but melodically.
So the thing is, like,
it should be similar.
So that's really difficult for a algorithm to do, because sometimes I will like just one bit in a song, which could be that someone's voice breaks a bit, like they're like, ah. Do you know what I mean? I go, that really hits my human emotion.
Yeah.
You can't rely. How would you explain that to a machine? You can't. You just end up with just screamo bands. So the AI DJ, I was like, okay, great. So it started playing an electro rock song. I was like, yeah, cool. And then it started playing another one. I was like, yeah, cool. It started playing another one. Daft Punk's Playing in My House by LCD Sound System. I was like, I can see where this night's going.
Yeah.
So I bashed, I double dropped some ecstasy. Double drop some ecstasy.
Oh, just went all in, double down. Yeah.
Well, it's a night. I can hear this is going.
Fair enough.
Double drop some ease. Cheeky line of speed, right?
Right. Yeah.
Next song that came on Sign Your Name, Cross My Heart by the artist previously known as Terence Trent D'Arby. And with all that stuff, like sort of, it was kind of like a bit of a break from where it was going. It's kind of not what a DJ would do. And I kind of just ended up like in the corner of the room cuddling a pillow.
Well, it elicited some sort of emotion. So, job done, I would say.
Sanandra Maitreya is what Terence Trent D'Arby goes by now.
Yeah, good luck to them.
Good luck to him. Lives in Italy. Was blackballed by Michael Jackson. Still haven't got over it.
Really?
Yeah, Michael Jackson apparently, when he came out with that song, was like, I don't want this motherfucker, sexy guy coming in and treading on my toes. Like to the records company, so they sort of held him back quite a lot.
Oh, dear.
Oh, well, Michael Jackson sounded like Mickey Mouse. I don't mean in that impression, I just mean in general.
Yeah.
So
I assume it was some sort of Disney crossover, but we'll never know now. He's
Michael Jackson
left this earthly realm. Yeah.
So, Neil, today we are going to look
It becomes public domain in another 20 years, Chris.
What, Michael Jackson?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
We'll have some fun then.
Ooh, dead can't sue.
If you thought the Steamboat Willie impressions we keep doing were irritating.
So we're going to have a look at a legend/creature.
Okay.
From the Amazon in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the Mapinguari of Brazilian folklore.
Well, there you go.
And this is from our website called jahernandez.com.
Are there any 14 researchers involved in this, do you know?
Presumably Mr. Hernandez himself.
Almost definitely, yeah.
Well, so he's done novels, he's done short stories, he's done flash fiction.
Flash fiction?
Yeah. And he's
Sounds
done...
close to something else, but yeah.
And he's done into horror history, which is what this is. So it's obviously stuff he's kind of been interested in while he's doing his writing, and he's done a little article on it.
Fair enough.
So this is from October 23.
Right, nice.
So the Amazon rainforest is 6.7 million square kilometers, 2.587 million miles. It covers an area far too large for any of us to really wrap our heads around. Just imagine how much may be hiding in there that none of us know about. So it shouldn't come as a surprise to know that tales and legends of all manner of strange things have been passed down through the generations of people living in the rainforest. Among these stories are the stories of the Mapinguari. They stand out, and you'll see why in a minute.
Mm-hmm. Can they teleport? They're like peacock feathers.
What's
that?
Like
display.
Oh, right, yeah. Have they got peacock feathers and teleportation? Well, that's...
They just teleport in front of you and do like a peacocking manoeuvre and then teleport back.
I mean, from the limited...
Probably just let you read out the information, shouldn't they?
No, I mean, from the limited amount of information, I mean, like, you're not... There's nothing here to...
contradict what I'm saying.
Persuade me that isn't the case.
Let's assume that's correct then. Yeah. Until we know otherwise.
Before we proceed, take a quick listen on how to pronounce Mapinguari over at forvo.com. I'm not going to do that. Mapinguari is how it's pronounced.
We like to embarrass ourselves with our pronunciation. So the thing is, if we put a lot of effort into one of them, we'd have to do it with all of them, and that gets tedious.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of work. You're giving me a blinded behind the eyes.
A lot of work for a free podcast. That's not how we roll. But I'd say it's part of our charm, you know.
But he has said...
rough and tumble podcasters that we are, you know. We'll get a few things wrong, but, you know.
Come on.
80-20 rule. Come on, guy.
Their heart's
in the right place.
Their heart's not entirely in
We're
the wrong
aiming for the target, even if we don't always hit, yeah?
The heart's not entirely in the wrong place.
Yeah. I mean, mostly.
Mostly, but not entirely. So that way, if you're ever snatched up by one, you can correctly scream the name of it as your last word.
Well, I'm sure that would be very mollifying for all concerned.
So, Mapinguari's stomping grounds. I
think you'll find it's pronounced Mapinguari.
Okay. According to the various legends, Mapinguari's favourite stomping grounds are essentially the entire Amazon rainforest.
There you go. wherever you like. They're all over the place.
The Amazon stretches across 9 countries. Neil, would you like to tell me what they are?
Brazil is one of them.
That's correct now.
Let's start in Brazil, doesn't it, I think? I'm going to... Oh, God. Did it go down as far as Argentina?
Nope.
I'm going to have to bring up a map of South America now.
Well, then there's no point in us doing this exercise, is there?
Well,
It's Brazil, Peru, Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, Bolivia, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guyana.
So does it go along kind of like
Kind of at the top.
east to west then? Oh, okay, rather than north to south. Right.
Yeah. Well, it's basically the top. It's basically the top 2/3 of South America.
Google a map of the Amazon. I know it's like ridiculously huge. Oh, okay, yeah. So you've got Brazil's kind of like in the middle, and French Guyana's at the north.
So, and thanks to deforestation
Colombia
and humans, it represents over half of the planet's remaining rainforests. Most of the Amazon remains unexplored or only superficially studied. Dense vegetation, hazardous terrains, and vast river systems, and the sheer size makes exploration daunting.
Don't worry, we're getting that chopped down ASAP.
Nice
We'll
one.
Build some.
Get it burned.
Get a road through there. Get some cows in. Have some more lovely McDonald's.
Gorgeous. Some lovely corned beef.
With some mackie, yeah.
And Freight Bentos.
Bentos.
Hey, Argentina and Uruguay have got that covered for us.
Don't worry about it.
So the Amazon is home to an estimated 390 billion individual trees, divided into about 16,000 species. Those who study it believe that 1 in 10 known species on Earth can be found there, including around 2.5 million insect species. Not bothered, get rid of them. Tens of thousands of species of plants. Test them for medicine, get rid of them.
Yeah.
And over 2,000 types of birds and mammals, eat them.
Well, no, what we should do is just have like one of each, like on Noah's Ark. Yeah, work for Noah. So we don't need all of that. Just one of each.
Get a DNA sample, and we'll sort it out later. We'll sort it later. There's a lot going on at the moment. So we got American elections, all sorts. Get a feather off one of the flapping cunts, and we'll deal with him later. We'll bring him back.
I'm trying to figure out what to watch with the umpteen streaming services. I ain't got time to worry about the rainforests.
There's fuck all on anymore. The golden age of TV's done. I've started.
Mate, everyone going bang on about the whales. They're still here, aren't they?
That's more than
fine
that.
As far as I'm concerned.
They keep invading our beaches and getting themselves all suffocated as well.
Yeah, just ride up right onto Brighton Pier and
unbelievable.
Got nothing better to do.
A lot of people sort of see the beach and the coastline as kind of a lovely liminal space where you can go and relax. I see it as a front line.
Yeah.
I think we should dig trenches on the beaches. Just saying.
War against marine life. Yeah.
Finally.
Bit less ocean, I would say.
Well, there's not many. How many humans live under the water? None.
Not enough space for us to live in. Well, fair enough. Get less ocean.
Plenty of room, yeah.
Don't worry about it.
So its biodiversity having unlike anything else as on the planet. And I didn't even mention the Amazon River, which by volume is the world's largest river. By volume. That's how we're the world's largest Urban Legends podcast. By
That's
volume.
how we do it, yeah. Because it's not the longest, is it? I believe.
No.
I think it's contentious, but the Nile is the longest river in the world. But it's all. I do think I read somewhere it's
could be the Congo.
Well, yeah, it's or the Amazon potentially. I think it's technically the Nile is accepted as the longest one in the world, but actually, because things change over time and all the rest of it, it's actually apparently it's
Mississippi's pretty long as well. Neil, don't forget that.
Let's have a look.
Long old river,
longest rivers,
and the Colorado probably.
Mother Thames,
old Mother Thames. The cleaner of 1,000 sins. Over 350 indigenous groups of people live in the Amazon, with about 60 of the groups living in voluntary isolation, choosing to maintain minimal contact with the outside world. Got the right idea. It's estimated that only 1% of the plants in the Amazon have been studied for its medicinal properties. Now, that's lazy, isn't it? 1% has been...
it's difficult getting in there and getting it done, isn't it?
Well, not if you're fucking GlaxoSmithKline or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I
get
don't spend a
down
lot of money on research. Just flog the old
No.
tut you got in the basement.
there. And let the universities do the fucking research. Nice and taxpayer funded. Then make it unaffordable for people who need it.
And troll it up afterwards, yeah.
Even though the rainforest has already provided the world with countless medicinal ingredients like quinine, novocaine, vincrisine, a chemotherapy drug, and cortisone.
Quinine, of course, is in tonic water, which is why you get that slightly bitter flavour.
It's lovely, isn't it?
That's why they originally used to have tonic, because it's good for malaria.
Well, I like tonic water. I've never got malaria, so
there you go. And likewise, I've had a few G&Ts and I've never had malaria, so it's clearly something's working.
Exactly. So,
by the way, the Amazon and the Nile, only 90 miles in it, Chris.
Oh, tight, isn't it? That could
have gone either way.
Oh, it still could, Neil. That could change on a strong.
I reckon a BAR decision that could, yeah.
Get back out there and measure again.
give it some more. The Amazon, I reckon you could have this in the bag. You got to want it, Amazon.
Get back out there with your meter
marginal
wheel.
gains.
With your meter wheel and redo it. So, the name Mapinguari comes from the Ngatu language, also known as Tupi, an indigenous language of the Tupi people of Brazil. Historically, Ngatu was a lingua franca in vast parts of the Amazon region during the European colonization, aka, fuck you, we're going to kill everything and take all your shit because we can, period.
That's about right.
Particularly the 17th and 18th century.
Well, let's be honest, it's still happening with the sort of rainforest being decimated these days, isn't it? I don't think anyone's massively...
We've already covered that. We've covered it.
Indigenous people.
Deal with it later.
Yeah, right.
Let our kids that don't exist deal with it.
Yeah.
All right? They've had a soft upbringing. They can have a difficult adulthood. Okay? Okay?
Right, J.D. Vance.
Okay. Jesuit missionaries used the Ngatu extensively for evangelization, and it played a significant role in fostering communication between indigenous tribes and colonizers.
Yeah, give them a bit of Jesus in return.
All right.
For all that lovely golden wood and what have you.
So, however, Ngatu's prominence diminished over time, especially with the rise of Portuguese as the dominant language. Whilst it's no longer widely spoken, efforts are ongoing to revive and preserve this vital part of Brazil's culture and linguistic heritage. An encounter with a Mapinguari.
There's a lot more about kind of like
I know
the history of Brazil and a lot less around. I still haven't. Yeah. Anyway, setting the scene. I get it.
The thing is, Neil, when you're looking for an article that's long enough about a made-up thing that hardly anyone knows about, then to pad it out, they're often going to do stuff like that. And that's just something which I've come to terms with. An encounter with a Mapinguari. You ready for this now?
I'm going to blow my socks off, I imagine, Chris.
I don't like. Sometimes I get a bit insecure, Neil, and I was just thinking back to all of the Scylla talk at the start of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Does anything we say make any sense on this podcast?
I'm not convinced. I just kind of like what normally happens is I just kind of zone out, and then the podcast has ended, and I've apparently been having a conversation for the best part of an hour or more, and apparently that's. I listen back to some, and they seem okay. So
yeah,
I assume we're making some kind of sense to somebody. I mean, we do have listeners. We get the occasional email.
We do. Maybe we'll get one about an encounter with a Mapinguari.
That'd be good.
Ever wanted? So this, I think, this is this is flash fiction. This next paragraph, I think I
want to know what flash fiction is. I'm assuming it's very brief fiction.
I think this is flash fiction,
and I can't get out of my head that it sounds a bit like slash fiction.
Ever wanted to visit the Amazon? I'm sure you have, with a sense of wanderlust. A deep yearning to explore its untouched and spend time unraveling the world's mysteries. Imagine that this year your heart is sets its compass on the rainforest. With your trusty backpack and old map, you hop on a flight to embark on the adventure of a lifetime.
Oh, sounds lovely.
You arrive in the Amazon and gape at the verdant canopy. Your mind races at its countless secrets. You find a local guide, buy some supplies, and skip off into the dense forest. That night, you set up camp and you sit by the fire with your guide as they share tales of the region. One of them a strange story of a creature called a Mapinguari that has a single eye, like a cyclops,
Finally, we're getting somewhere.
and a mouth on its stomach.
Okay.
Your curiosity is piqued. You lean in and ask for more about the
Suddenly,
Mapinguari.
you notice he's only got one eye and a mouth on his stomach. That's the last you ever hear.
With a solemn look, your guard recounts a tale about those who have gone missing. Search parties finding eerie backwards-facing footprints and a haunting cry that silences all the noises in the jungle.
Oh.
Feeling a chill, you decide story time's over and you go to bed. You zip up your tent, snuggle into your sleeping bag, and
Wants
close
to be a
your
bit
eyes.
more flash fucking forwarded. Sorry, Carl.
A distant cry of an unknown animal fills the air. The stench of something foul wafts in. Chuckling to yourself, chuckling to yourself about the Mapinguari, you peek outside your tent to check out the noise and smell. Your flashlight illuminates the area around your tent, revealing enormous footprints that seem backwards.
Oh no, it's Shaquille O'Neal.
Shazam! He's filming Shazam too.
Yeah.
You follow the trail of Prince for a short distance,
Prince, as in the
shaking.
musician.
Huh?
Prince.
Yeah, you follow the trail.
You hear the sound of Purple Rain in the distance.
You follow the trail of Prince, the musician.
Oh, this is why doves cry, so he exclaims.
For a short distance, because Prince was he was because he was
Well, he
one of
was
those.
into 14 research, wasn't he?
Well, he was one of those guys who could do anything. Because in high school he was like brilliant at basketball, and he's a brilliant musician. But he also, during the periods where he was in contractual disputes with Sony and just had the symbol, he took a bit of time out of doing music to
Ride Nessie.
to put together a lot of the current paths which people use throughout the Amazon. He like went in and sort of put the paths, like chopped down the trees to kind of make.
Well, you know, 50% of what people assume were Roman roads in Britain were built by Prince during that period.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah.
Incredible work ethic.
Yeah. What's some of them called? I was going to say Walden Street, but I can't remember. So where are we? The enormous footprint.
Just making up bullshit because it's kind of.
So the trail of print. The trail of print.
You've got your flashlight out. You're following some large prints. You're trying to figure out where Shaquille O'Neal's got in the Amazon. Yeah.
So one of Prince's trails, I'm going to say, a short distance, shaking your head at the trick the guides must be playing on you. But Neil, a looming shadow appears blocking out the night sky.
Mm-hmm.
You point your flashlight at it and need to find a massive humanoid creature. From its head, a single eye stares back at you, and then you spot it. A gaping maw. Not on its face, but on its abdomen.
Oh, yeah. I'm Peter. Peter the Cyclopic Monster of the Amazon. Esquire.
I don't. Where are you from? America. I don't suppose you know Prince, do you? Because we got on really well back in 1994 when he was kicking around here. But we've lost contact.
I know he's busy on that, but you know.
I'm afraid he died, Peter.
Oh, no.
What did he do? He'd taken sleeping pills in a lift. Oh, what a terrible way to go.
Oh,
he always wanted to get eaten by the river dolphins. So, okay.
It's a true warrior's death.
It opens, and the same horrible cry you heard in your tent reverberates around you, deafens you, and the darkness engulfs everything. you are dead. But congratulations, because you have met a Mapinguari.
I mean, that's a fairly backhanded congratulations.
Yeah, well done,
But you've just been
prick.
digested by.
Well done. You're happy now.
Yeah.
I hate to say I told you so.
That's what happens when you go out a campaign
Neil,
on the Amazon.
That gave us a tantalating taste of this next section. What is a Mapinguari? Its defining facial feature.
But he's put a lot of flair into his article, hasn't he?
He's a writer, J.A. Hernandez.
I wouldn't say it's overwritten, but anyway.
It's not overwritten, not at all. No. Having read Three Body Problem Trilogy, this is not overwritten.
Oh, fair enough. Well, I think I enjoyed that more than you did. But,
I think you did.
Yeah.
It's just high concept disaster porn.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
So its defining facial feature is at the forefront of the tales surrounding the Mapinguari. A single cyclopean eye placed squarely in the middle of the forehead.
Sounds a bit like one of the descriptions that I had of like when Marco Polo went exploring and they do those little drawings of like somebody with like a face in their chest. Yeah. But so he's got an eye in his head, in his face.
He's got he's Cyclops.
Cyclops, but with the mouth in the stomach.
That's it, mouth in the belly.
Makes you wonder where the digestive organs work, doesn't it? Maybe they've got less far to travel because then they've got down the esophagus, straight into the large intestine.
Yeah.
Very efficient.
Or straight into the stomach.
Or straight into, stomach, I guess.
It's good, yeah. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Believability 10. So the lone eye has earned the creature an otherworldly reputation, painting a picture of it not quite fitting the natural order. Perhaps the most unsettling feature of the Mapinguari is the gaping maw, said to be located not on its face, but eerily in its abdomen. This peculiarity adds an almost nightmarish quality to the creature's descriptions, giving it an edge of unpredictability in encounters.
Yeah, I'm trying to picture it. So is it kind of like got...
Why don't you look it up, Neil? Plenty of pictures of it.
Well, let's do that very thing. Do you want to spell that out for me?
Map.
Yeah.
In
Garai.
Gurai. So Guari.
Why? Yeah.
I.
Good enough. Right.
So adding to the Mapinguari's odd nature is its backwards-facing feet, a detail that confounds trackers and locals alike. These twisted appendages not only make its tracks unique, but also serve as a deceptive tool, confusing anyone trying to decipher its direction of movement. Tricky, tricky Mapinguari.
Oh. I'm going to walk away from... Oh, no, I've run straight into him.
Oh, no. The rainforest, usually alive with a cacophony of countless creatures, is said to fall eerily silent at the cry of the Mapinguari. This haunting sound, which can be heard over vast distances, includes a stillness in the forest, supposedly freezing animals in their tracks. Often, before the cry of the Mapinguari is heard, its presence is announced by an overpowering foul odour. So potent is the stench that there are tales of it being strong enough to render a person unconscious, making encounters with the creature as much a test as one's olfactory endurance as one's courage. So it sounds like...
just eat me, then I can't stand this. Yeah.
Sounds like what's-his-face who did the witch hunts, McCarthy.
So you're telling me I wasn't aware of that?
He only ate burgers and he drank from the moment he got up and never washed.
Nice.
Like, why would you go, this guy seems to get it. Right, let's follow him.
He's sorting out the commies, Chris.
That he's made up.
It sounds like some commie talk to me.
Well, I would be considered a commie in 1950s America, wouldn't I? I think we know that.
Get you black.
I think we know that.
Nothing wrong with that.
So, aside from the ear-piercing cry and overwhelming stench, the Mapinguari is supposed to have...
Thank you, Mr. McCartney, for securing our freedom so we can do this podcast. Thank you for your service, sir.
Paul
McCartney.
Paul McCartney.
All them witch hunts you went on.
Yeah, he
in
did.
60s Liverpool when he were playing bass guitar.
That's why I moved to the Mull of Kintyre, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because he heard that there was witches up there and he was going to burn
Hunt them all down, yeah. Well, that's what the movie Witchfinder General was based on.
McCarthy, Witchfinder
In the
General.
70s, yeah.
But they got rid of the McCarthy bit because of legally he would have had to put Lennon and McCartney.
Yeah.
And Lennon wasn't interested in being in the film.
No, he didn't think it'd be successful.
He was too busy seeing UFOs off of his hotel suite in New York when he definitely wasn't on drugs.
Yeah.
When he'd broken up with Yoko Ono and was going out with another really young Asian woman. Aside from the ear-piercing cry and overwhelming stench, the Mapinguari is supposed to have a thick, shaggy fur, somewhat reminiscent to what scientists believe a prehistoric giant sloth would have had. Mapinguari also have long, menacing claws. Neil, and if that wasn't enough, stories say that the Mapinguari's hide is impervious to bullets, making it seem almost invincible. So if you ever encounter one, you're as good as dead. Loser talk.
I mean, impervious to bullets.
That's right.
What caliber?
All of them.
I mean, like a tank round?
Wouldn't be a bullet, would it? Be a shell?
No, it'd be a shell, in fairness. There you go, then just take a bazooka.
It's your answer to everything.
Yeah, quite right.
So, Mapinguari, what do you reckon of his looks?
Do you know, like
half Cyclops, half Bigfoot, with a mouth in its stomach.
It's very different depending on which pictures you look at.
Yeah.
So there's some of that are kind of quite cute. There's a bunch that look like a giant sloth, which is interesting, with like the claws and everything, which is probably quote unquote a bit more realistic. But yeah, I didn't. Well, and some of them are just really cartoony, which is like a massive mouth and a stomach.
Yeah.
And they got one as well where it's got like just a monkey face and a mouth and stomach as well. So it's got like two mouths.
So the interesting thing, it's
interesting. To agreed what he looks like, basically.
So Cyclops, the Greeks' version of Cyclops,
yeah,
which has obviously come up independent to this, right?
Yeah,
they reckon that what sparked all that is back in the prehistory, you used to have like dwarf elephants that lived in Greece, and their skulls basically look sort of like a human skull, but with a massive hole which looks like an eye socket, but it's actually the nasal socket. And they reckon that people might have found these skulls and gone, fuck me, that's a massive monster with one eye. So I'm wondering if it's the same deal here, because there would have been, baby elephants and stuff, potential or similar creatures in prehistory living in the Amazon, and I wonder if they might have found like the skull of one and gone, oh fuck.
It's possible. I think it's one of those things where it's really difficult to prove because they're part of Greek mythology, aren't they? Well, obviously it's in this one in what's it called, the Odyssey.
Yeah,
and where you escape under the sheep, what have you.
That's right.
Yeah, I think
after blinding him and saying, "My name's No One," and he's going, "No one's blinded me." And
cunning Odysseus does it again.
Yeah, you should hear his knock jokes.
Who's on next? He originated that as well. But yeah, so yeah, who knows? Yeah, could have been. I mean, it's a bit like giants and stuff like that. I mean, it could have just been a really tall skeleton. Yeah, who knows?
But it's the one eye thing which is interesting, because the only instance which I know of Cyclops, apart from this,
in nature, is from these elephants.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So Mapinguari's extended family. Creatures like the Mapinguari aren't alone in the world of legends and folklore. Every corner of the globe, which is weird saying because globes are spherical, it's a hot take, has tales of large, furry humanoid creatures. In North America, you have Bigfoot, it's often described as ape-like. Himalayas, Yeti. Australia, Yowie. Mongolia, okay, we haven't heard of this one. In Mongolia, there are tales of the Almas. a hominid-like creature. Unlike some other Bigfoot types, the Almas are frequently described as more human-like in behaviour and occasionally seen wearing primitive clothing and sometimes interacting with locals. That's your one for next week, Neil. The Almas.
Maybe. But one for a future one anyway.
Over in the remote forest of Siberia, there are legends of the creature known as the Chuchanya, and it is described as tall and ape-like, covered with fur. Note that none of the creatures I've just mentioned are said to have backwards feet, but backwards feet are common in tales of evil and malicious creatures.
Didn't one of the dolls in that there was like an 80s, 90s cartoon where they had a load of dolls, Braggy dolls, that was it. Did one of them have backwards feet or a backwards
back
feet?
to front.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, he was. I think he was my favourite one because he was the only one that looked anywhere modern at all. He wore a Walkman.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, he'll probably be my favourite then.
Right, you carry on reading this out because I'm going to look up Braggy dolls.
Okay, good stuff. So the churul in folklore from India, the
headphones
of Brazilian mythology, and the layak of Indonesia, the tikbalang of Filipino culture, and the luska of the Caribbean, to name just a few, all have backward feet and all are very dangerous to humans. The mouth in the abdomen, though, that one isn't very common, pushing the stories of the Mapinguari far more into horror territory than any of the Bigfoot-alike cousins around the world. Much of the folklore around these creatures goes way back in history, making the entire collection of worldwide stories pretty strange. Are they all just stories? Are they legends, echoes of the prehistoric animals? Well, disturbingly, are some of the tales true? If you ever find yourself in the Amazon at night and you hear a haunting cry and smell a foul stench and see a giant backward footprint, what would you do? And Neil, what would you do?
I would run into the nearest bar. Yeah, I mean,
so you're not in the middle of the Amazon then?
No, exactly. Well, I mean, what can you do? Get back in your tent, I guess. Start a fire. That's supposed to stop animals from approaching.
First thing, strip off. Second thing, cover yourself in mud.
Oh, predator tactics. Nice.
Well, because then
has he got heat vision?
Well,
seeing ultraviolet.
Don't know. Well, the eye, having one eye that's really big, you would imagine that because we have two eyes, then that uses up a certain amount of brain capacity to sort of combine the images together into a single image into our heads and reverse them and all that stuff. If you've only got one eye, then you've got all that extra processing stuff that you can use for that one eye. So probably heat vision, probably
there you
go. Sonar, maybe.
Who knows?
Right. Maybe the stomach screams and then the noise bounces
back. Echolocation as well.
Could be, Neil. Could be.
I mean, we haven't figured out where his ears are yet, have we? He's got a big one up
side
his
of
anus.
his head.
Yeah, side of his head. Yeah,
just on the side of his head. Let's just go with that.
Are they like bat ears?
They're sort of like
elephant,
Irish fighter ears.
Okay, big cauliflower. Yeah,
big old ears.
Yeah,
seen a few rounds. So I'm just going on to Wikipedia now for a little bit more. So in the later half of the 20th century, some cryptozoologists speculated that the Mapinguari might be an unknown primate, obviously. Others claim that it's a modern-day sighting of a giant ground sloth, an animal estimated to have gone extinct at the end of the late Pliocene. These latter descriptions may be attributed to David C. Oren, an ornithologist who heard stories of the creature and hypothesized that they might be the extinct sloths. This was met by criticism by scientists at the time.
Any reasonable biologist, yeah.
But an article Oren published in 1993 was picked up by major newspapers, despite no evidence.
Yes.
Skeptics point out that there have not been any fossil records of ground sloths for thousands of years. A 2023 academic study of the 1995 discovery of giant sloth bones, modified into primordial pedants suggested that humans lived in the Americas contemporaneously with the giant sloth, specifically that it may have served as an inspiration for the Mapinguari, a mythical beast that, in Amazonian legend, had the nasty habit of twisting off the heads of humans and devouring them. So I think that it could be something.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been hunted by giant sloths, I guess, and then you just, all the rest of it's embellishments.
I don't think giant sloth. I don't know. Were they carnivorous giant sloths?
Well, according to this, although I mean, the whole thing with sloths and whether the giant ones were different, I don't know. But they're very low energy. Obviously, they kind of spend about 98% of their time just.
Well, there was that whole period, wasn't there, kind of during the Ice Age, where there was loads more oxygen, and so animals grew really big. About 100,000 years ago or something, wasn't it? So, but early kind of hominids would have been about. It could have been passed down.
Yes. Yeah.
Have we got any more? Let's have a look. So, not going to go through all that. Not going to go through that. Fuck me. There's loads on this on cryptidarchives.fandom. So there's been all. So here we go. Here's some physical evidence, Neil, and then I'll wrap it up. So David Oren, who we recently spoke about, who wrote The Thing with No Evidence, has taken casts of a number of tracks which he believes to have been made by the Mapinguari, and according to Oren, one cast about 1 inch deep shows knuckle walking track with 3 digits. Like that.
It's an anaconda pressing a gorilla's foot into the ground.
You've got it in one.
There you go.
Audio recording.
Did it come to me first?
According to some reports, Oren also has recorded a minute-long call, which he believes was made by the Mapinguari. During Pat Spain's Beast Hunter investigations, I assume that's a TV show.
That sounds like a good TV show.
A strange call...
Almost like Beastmaster, but slightly related.
A strange call may have been heard in response to the modified sloth call, but it's unclear if it was picked up by the recording equipment. Josh Gates... investigation for Destination Truth.
Yes. Where are you headed? Destination Truth. Almost certainly not. That's how you're pitching it. Destination bullshit, more likely.
So he also recorded an animal call with a former, doesn't explain why it's former, Los Angeles zookeeper. I want to know that.
He got a bit too busy wanting to know about the Mapinguari.
Yeah. He was
unable. Just get stitches, Chris. That's all I'm going to say.
He was unable to identify the sounds. And other evidence, and again, this is David Oren, so he seems to be the one producing
all of this material.
A lot of this material, yeah. He also owns a photograph of claw markings on a tree, 8 of them about 1 foot long and 1 inch deep. Oren has collected several hair samples, which he believed may have come from the Mapinguari. But testing results were mostly inconclusive, although in one case, a tuft of hair he found turned out to come from an agouti. Results of testing of alleged Mapinguari dung were inconclusive, and in one case, some fecal matter collected by Orion was identified as a giant anteater's or tapir's dung. Geneticist and skunk ape investigator John Lewis claims to have extracted ground sloth DNA from an alleged Mapinguari feces, which he stepped in during a 2001 expedition to Brazil. See what's interesting? When you look at a map of the natural habitat of the ape, and you look at a map of the natural habitat of the bear, it looks like we've basically split the world in two between ape and bear.
You don't want to, did you ever see them in the same room together?
Never the twain shall meet.
No.
Never the twain.
And although you could end up with they'd be really against one another, but then like a Romeo and Juliet self story where there's just that one bear and that one ape falling in love against the odds. Beautiful, wouldn't it?
There you go.
Tragic at the same time.
Disney, Michael Eisner or whatever, who's in charge now.
Make it happen.
Make it happen. Oh, let us write
There's your new animated franchise of bollocks.
Let us write it.
Yeah.
It won't be for kids.
Oh no, God!
Absolutely
Hard R rating.
hard R.
The
It's not even,
hardest
for
of
most,
ours.
not even for most adults.
No,
You have to do a psychometric test before being allowed in the cinema.
you have to have spent at least 20 years in Broadmoor.
And a 2-year
Be a hopeless case.
and a 2-month cool down period afterwards before you're allowed to be released back into society.
It's solitary. Yeah.
So there's some undated stuff here I'm willing to go through now. So while he was, I wasn't asking.
That's brilliant. I assumed that wasn't an option. So fair enough.
While he was chief administrator of the Sierra Pilada, a mining camp in the southeast of Para, scientist David Gueros Vieira noted that many reliable contemporary Amazonians have stories of first-hand contact with the Mapinguari, and collected several first-hand sightings from gold miners. Since speaking with Vieira, David Oren has collected over 90 accounts of the Mapinguari or animals like it, and as of 2000, claimed to have shot specimens in the Amazonias. 3 hunters claim to have captured living Mapinguaris in quite recent times.
Okay.
But all 3 animals escaped because the men were unable to bear the stench. A Mapinguari was said to have been killed by gold miners in Rodonia, a 2-day walk from Porto Velho. Another gold prospector claimed to have shot a giant monkey covered in reddish fur, which charged at him in the forest. He shot it in the face and then fainted. And when he came round, the animal had gone.
Anyway, aren't they bulletproof? Maybe just decided not to eat him.
Well, he shot it in the face and then fainted. So we don't know what happened. Others might have come along, picked it up. Who knows?
Not sure how it's related. Never mind, stick it in.
When Oren, wink, wink, investigated the area, he found a pool of blood and round paw prints with marks of clawed toes pointing inwards. In one oft-reported sighting, which occurred near Barra de São Maunal on the Tapajos River, a hunter named Manuel Vitorino Pinheiro dos Santos shot 4 peccaries before hearing the call of the Mapinguari. He fled the river as the second call shook the trees themselves and he hid underwater. The calls became muffled as the animal seemed to move deeper in the jungle, but Manuel remained hiding for hours.
Good job he didn't get eaten by, I'd be worried about, what you call them, piranhas.
I'd be worried about those fish that swim up here.
Up your old jack, yeah. Well, they feed on, they feed off the gills of other fish, don't they? Which is why they swim up,
Just keep them out of my gills, is what I'm saying. Several sightings
of this. Snack. I mean, your urethra's like local McDonald's to them.
It's like an old McDonald's.
That smells good. Get in there.
Oh dear.
Like a kebab van outside Portslade Station. Sam's, I remember that.
So, of course, it's gone now. It's all hors d'oeuvres, isn't it? It's all Michelin stars.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not just a van outside Portslade Station anymore. There was a genuine kind of like that was a good time Friday night when I was a skint. My schooler. Get nice. Tanked up on White Lightning. And a chili kebab.
Lovely.
At the back of the van.
Was it served to you by Devonian men?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. So the sitcom.
He had a Cyclops and a Nathan is something now. I come to think of it. I think he was a.
Yeah, but those people have been priced out of Portslade now, and they all live in Littlehampton.
Yeah, they've all gone to Lancing.
So, several sightings of the kind Harada have occurred in the Caritania Reservation, especially near an area known as the Cave of the Mapinguari, unsurprisingly. In one of the earliest reporting sighters, a hunter named Valdemiro, who approached the cave, was startled by a terrifying cry, followed by the animal itself emerging from the cave. Valdemiro noticed that the animal balanced on the sides of its feet, holding its claws inwards. In another incident, A Karatana man named Moaki was out hunting when he saw what he believed was a giant anteater due to the claws, but when the animal stood up, it was taller than a man. Moaki fled, pursued by the animal, and hid himself under a tree, which the animal attempted to uproot. In accounts given to Pat Spain, 2 men were driving their car when a Kidahara came out of the forest and they hid and it moved away. So there's some other bits like that. But
so lots of near misses, but yeah, I think we've
I'm going to leave it there, Neil. So there is the Mapinguari.
There was the rancid fruit, which is the Mapinguari. I'll just have a quick look at Wiki to see if there's anything else. Yada, 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 Brazilian folklore, hairy cyclops, cryptozoologists, akin to Bigfoot, yeah.
So what I would say is if anyone's interested, there's a fuckload of sightings from the 30s onwards. 1913, Serengiro named Lenosio was alleged to have killed a macaco di Baracha, which appeared suddenly in front of him while he was travelling a trail in the bush, which I think is another name for it. He fired at the animal 15 times, hitting the navel and the arm, killing it. So, I mean, like, there's loads of these. So if you want to go to cryptidarchives.fandom.com/wiki/Mapinguari, feel free to read through them. But
here's a fun fact on the terminology. It comes from Mbappe, like the footballer, but it's Mbappe Mapinguari, meaning a thing that has a bent or crooked foot or paw.
Oh, so it's a foot-based name.
Yeah. And it was in the 2020 animated film The Red Scroll, during the final scene when the character Whooper transforms into a giant sloth monster.
Lovely. So, Neil,
there you go.
Does that make it spooky for you? Why don't you score it and let me know, you bastard?
No, maybe I won't now. Fuck you. No, let's do it. The premise of the podcast. It's it's quite spooky, isn't it? It's I'll give it that. A massive mouth coming out of its bread basket. That's gonna. Yeah, there's something uncanny.
One eye, mouth in the stomach. Yeah, that's horrible, isn't it?
I can't quite get my head around it. So yeah, I think this would. The growling and rowling and the stench and everything. Yeah, I think it would quite a fearsome spooky.
It's quite an assault on all the senses, isn't it?
It certainly is. It's going on all channels, blasting. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 9. I think it's got spooky down pretty well.
Yeah, I'm going high as well because not only is it all of this weird stuff and it's got lots going on. I mean, it seems to be actively hostile. It seems to humans. It seems to see humans as it's above us in the food chain. Is how it feels.
Who can blame it?
Who can blame it? And also you're in the fucking you're in, for us being in the forest, quite scary anyway. I'd be quite scared of the spiders.
You're out your element, aren't you?
Out your element. So yeah, Neil, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to give it an 8 rather than 9, but also high. Believability. So, definitely people think it exists, right? The tribal people, they definitely think it exists. There is a plethora of hearsay around it. There's loads of different...
A lot seems to be coming
possible sightings.
This same one contemporaneous source.
Well, no, not if you could look on where I was.
Oh, okay. So it's not all directly from Oran then?
No.
Like, I know it's from a local tribesman and blah, 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 but he hunted them down, etc. Yeah, okay.
So there's lots. So, I don't know, like it's for something that we look at, I mean, nothing, but what in nature has a mouth like near its stomach? Because that doesn't give you a lot of time to reject it if it's poisonous, does it?
No, I don't.
So, I mean, the thing is, right, that part of it is unreal, like the cycloptic part and its stomach, mouth are the bits which are bringing it down in believability to me. But lots of people have seen it. It's not something out of this world. It's meant to be a creature. I don't know, like, it's for something we look at, it's fairly believable. So I'm giving it an 8 nil.
Fair enough. That's quite high. Yeah, I don't think I can go that high.
Well, it's just got so many on the scaling on a curve. Sorry, on the scoring on a curve. For us, like this has got loads of different people who claim to have seen it. So
I just feel like people are mixing up with some. I mean, I suppose believe it or yeah, I don't know how widely it would be believed. I mean, it feels like there's. I don't know. I feel like there's. I mean, because a lot of people talk about seeing Nessie and stuff. I don't think a lot of them actually believe it. So I'm slightly more sceptical than you as to how many people actually believe it's there. Yeah, sure, it's part of the mythology, but I don't know how. I don't know. Could be wrong, but this is my interpretation of events. I'm going to give it a 5.
Okay. Narrative premise now.
Falls down here for me, I think. I mean, it's interesting looking, but again, it's just one of these ones where I suppose, well, no, actually, okay, let's think about this. So it's in the Amazon, that's a good setting. You're out in the sort of great outdoors, great unknown. I guess you could do something about kind of like, nature getting its own back on man and stuff. I'm going to give it a 6, actually. I don't think it's a massively rich one. There's not a lot to the stories. Just like spotted one and then it fainted or it ate someone. I don't know. It's not got as interesting motivation or anything or of some of the other ones we've covered. But the setting's cool.
Yeah,
I'll give it that.
With cryptid stuff, it tends to be slightly less of a narrative premise because it's not like, and then this Tin Man came from space, and
then we interpreted all X, Y, and Z. But hey, I've got a plan with it straight back, Chris. I get it.
Fine.
But
no one's criticised.
The rules apply equally to all.
No one's criticising,
and that's why we use a 4-quadrant system.
Exactly, it's fine. You're using the system correctly.
Yeah.
It's very original. It's interesting to me that it's cycloptic, and the only other thing I can think of is in Greece, and so those two things have come up separately. Although it's not a great leap, is it? I've got 2 eyes. What if I had one?
Exactly.
But it's been around for ages. It's just a creature, isn't it? It's just a creature doing creature stuff.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous creature, but it's a creature. So I'll go with you now. I'll give it 6. And reach. I think pretty well known in Brazil and maybe sort of the Amazon area. I think it's probably known. I'd never heard of it before I found it. It doesn't, I don't think that people in America would have necessarily heard of it. People in Europe, people in Africa, people in Asia. But it's got a reach through time. So that gives it something.
It's over a vast area. It's got a good sort of span of mythology.
Big old area, long time. So I'm going to give it a 5 now.
Yeah, similar. I'll go slightly lower because it's not covering as much of a population. Although it's a large area, there's less people. But reach wise 4 because it's probably ancient legend.
So that gives us overall 51. Not bad. Not a bad score. Quite. Do you know what? I was surprised how much came out as we were doing the podcast about this creature. It's actually interesting because a lot of the time it's like scrambling around for information, but actually this particular page on the Cryptid Archives thing has got a fuckload of stuff about people having encounters and stuff. So interesting. So if you
we learn about flash fiction.
Yeah, all right, it's a flash fiction story.
Short story, yeah.
herb.legends.podcast@gmail.com. But apart from that, I'm going to go and get a cold drink now, and I sort of don't feel like eating because it's hot. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Yeah. So
as you were saying about your granddad, maybe a bit of soup or something.
Yeah, I might just have a bowl of cereal later.
Yeah,
I might just do that. All right, everyone. Well, now you know that I'm living well, eating cereal for dinner later. Still single, ladies. We'll speak to you soon, and hope you've enjoyed, and have a good week, and but take precautions in the heat if that's something you need to do. And goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me. See you, everyone.